Man, guess who's back? I said, guess who's back? What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. We're going to get straight into this this card, the main event, which was between Dillian Whyte and Jermaine Franklin. Not a lot of people know Jermaine Franklin, including myself. I watched a few highlights of his fights, most of them in America, and I thought I didn't really see anything special. To be honest, initially. My mind has changed though. I'm actually a Jermaine Franklin fan, and I'm going to tell you why. But initially, I didn't see anything particularly promising. He looked too overweight for his height, because he doesn't look that tall. I think he may be listed at 6'2", and I think he's shorter than that, but I'm not sure. But you know, for his height, I think he's overweight. And I thought he's going to be another kind of a pie, you know, just someone who Dillian Whyte will push over. And yeah, how wrong was I? I was wrong about that. He actually has a lot of talent. I knew that he had some talent because of the things that he'd won before. He's got an amateur career, Golden Gloves winner, and he's won a few tournaments, and he was an unbeaten prospect. But you know, sometimes when you have these unbeaten fighters, you know, it's easy to be unbeaten if you haven't really come up against anybody. So I didn't really look at that, but I did look at that prior to the fight, thinking, well, he's unbeaten. But let's just get into the actual fight. Well, actually, let's take a moment that before the fight, all the antics and stuff like that, I felt like most of the antics was coming from Dillian Whyte's side. I felt like Dillian Whyte was trying to intimidate him in some way, trying to force the occasion on Franklin, you know, like looking down on him, you know, like he was just seems like he was trying to impose himself on him in a way, like you're stepping up to the big time. There was kind of like that, a kind of attitude towards Franklin, and just trying, which is good tactic, trying to mentally let him know that he's a smaller man physically, like height-wise, and when it comes to resume, he was kind of making him feel like you're nothing to me, and I've fought better opponents. And he was, I think maybe it's not that he was intentionally trying to do that, because actually watching the fight, that might have been Dillian Whyte's downfall. I think he underestimated Franklin, and he had the mindset that he was just another guy, like a training partner that he's going to knock out eventually. I feel like he had that mindset. But in any regards, he was trying to intimidate Franklin, and he was doing an otherwise good job. If it was anyone else, I think a lot of people would have been intimidated by some of the things that Dillian Whyte was doing and saying. But Franklin did not look intimidated. It didn't look as if any of that pre-fight intimidation stuff worked on him. He was just quiet. He was pretty silent. He never really fired back with any harsh words. Dillian Whyte got quite disrespectful in there. I saw a little gloves. Is it the gloves are off? A few little interviews between them, and Franklin kept his cool. He just kept his cool, and he was like, whatever, you know, we got to get in there and fight, and that's all I'm looking to do. He was very professional. Even in his loss, he was professional. So I'm a fan of Franklin just for that. The way he's handled himself, I feel like he handled himself like a gentleman. And then there was this issue about the gloves, and he handled himself like a gentleman with that as well. I'm not saying that's Dillian Whyte's fault, but I'm just saying there was an issue about the gloves not being, the packet of gloves not being sealed. He could have got angry about that. He never really showed any emotion. He knew what they were trying to do, if that was the case. So nothing really riled him. So I like his mentality. He came in with a very tough-minded mentality, and I like that. Getting to the actual fight, Dillian Whyte kind of looked like a shell of himself in there. He looked really slow. I've seen Dillian Whyte look fitter than that. He was blowing quite early in the fight. He was visibly tired. And a lot of people, I have watched a few reactions so far, and a lot of people have said this goes to show that Dillian Whyte is on the decline. I wouldn't go as far as that yet. He definitely has fought way better than this, but I kind of feel like it could have been two reasons why he fought like this. One could be, obviously, he's in a decline. He has taken some hard punches from Chisora, from Fury, from Joshua, from Povetkin, a few people now, and that could be telling on him. Yeah, that's probably the the more popular view, could be the more accurate view as well. But the other thing could be just that when he lost to Fury, he was really down. I know he wasn't really showing it, but he really was. It kind of messed up all these plans. He waited so long to get his shot at Fury, and then he got knocked out. He knew he could have done better than that, and he kind of just went off the map for a little while. I think he disappeared. I think he slipped into bad habits. I think Whyte is a person who needs to be. He needs someone to keep him disciplined. I get that feeling. I feel like he slipped into bad habits. He disappeared for a little while. This fight came up, and it was his chance to kind of come back. But I don't think it motivated him enough, because I think when you're waiting for a big shot against someone and then you lose kind of prematurely before you could really get into the fight against Fury, and then you end up fighting some up-and-coming guy, there's an energy change. Yeah, it's hard to get yourself excited about Jermaine Franklin. But Jermaine, put it this way, Jermaine Franklin was probably dreaming, when this fight got announced, every day he probably dreamt of beating Dillian Whyte. Probably had Dillian Whyte on his mind non-stop, because that's his chance to come up. Whereas Dillian Whyte probably hardly ever thought about Franklin, to be honest. I think Dillian Whyte's mindset was, I just get in there, have a little sparring thing with this guy, get him out of there, and then hopefully get back to where I was. Do you see what I mean? Because once you've been at the highest mountain, it's very hard to come all the way down and fight some prospect. And it's very difficult, because you've got a guy in Franklin who wants to give his all, because this is the highlight of his whole life. And you've got another guy in Dillian Whyte, this is going back, not just a step, but a few steps. So where's the motivation coming from? And this is what I feel like, this is what showed in the fight. Also, Dillian Whyte looked really rusty, which just goes to show that I don't think he's been training that well since the Fury fight. I think it's going to take him a while to get back to peak fitness, mentally and physically. Plus, he just started training with a new trainer, and he was trying to implement and work on a few things. So it could just be that. It might not be as serious as Dillian Whyte is on the massive decline. And I hope that it is the latter, because if it's not, Dillian Whyte has no chance. He's got no chance to get back to where he was, because despite the fact that people say Anthony Joshua hasn't got firepower anymore and he's lost the tenacity, which I actually kind of disagree with, AJ will finish Dillian Whyte very early if that's the case. If it's the case that he's slipped, and if he cannot improve from what he showed and be basically as good as we've seen him beforehand, he has no chance against Anthony Joshua. That's the honest truth. Anthony Joshua has only lost to the best in the way of Alexander Usyk. He lost on a bad night to Louise, but then he came back and avenged it. So Anthony Joshua is still top level. I don't know why people are making it out like Anthony Joshua is some kind of useless guy who hasn't got, has been. Not at all. Anthony Joshua has been at the top level and kept himself there for quite a few years, and he's fought the best competition. He's right in the mix with anybody in the world. So people shouldn't forget that about Anthony Joshua. And he's been very busy with a lot of different fights. So it's probably just taking his toll on Joshua. But I would say Dillian Whyte looked much worse for wear in this fight. Franklin definitely throws punches in bunches, like Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury's sparred Franklin, and he actually gave a little bit of an insight before this fight. He says he's quite good. He throws punches in bunches. And this is what I saw. He had some really good combinations. He followed up with some good shots. He hit Dillian Whyte flush on a lot of shots. And his work rate was good. He's got fast hands. He was aggressive. He did get a little bit tired, but I didn't see any. He did get a bit tired, but he got a second wind as well a few times in the fight. Dillian Whyte finished the fight quite strongly, but I felt like Dillian Whyte was landing a few jabs, but they didn't seem to be bothering Franklin that much. Franklin's punches definitely seemed to be bothering Dillian Whyte more than the other way around. I felt like Franklin was busier. I felt like he landed the harder punches as well. And overall, it's quite difficult to say, but overall, I think Franklin nicked this fight by 1 point. I think he nicked it by 1 point. I would also be quite happy with a draw. I think at the same time, if you wanted to know what a draw looks like, this is the fight to look at, basically. I mean, this fight was almost a textbook draw, you know. Early rounds, Franklin, some of the later rounds, White. Overall, probably a draw, but I think Franklin nicked this fight by 1 round. That's my personal opinion. I think he was busier. He landed the cleaner shots, the harder shots. I don't know why they had it a majority decision, to be honest. My guess is a little bit of biased. We're in the UK. Franklin's come over from the US to the UK to fight one of our stars, Dillian Whyte. They're not going to give it to Franklin easily. And even his own team knew this before coming into the fight. They knew this. They actually said this. So why didn't Franklin kind of try a little bit more? I don't know. But I think if somebody loses by 1 point, it's hard to say it's a robbery. I personally think it is a little bit of a robbery, you know, in a way. You know, I think Franklin still won clear enough, even though it was 1 point. But my guess, the reason why they didn't give it to Franklin, 2 things. One, fighting the UK favourite, and Dillian Whyte is more marketable than this new guy who nobody knows, and is in the UK. The second thing was Franklin, I think he did everything right, apart from the fact that he wasn't taking centre ring. He was being pushed back by Dillian Whyte quite a lot and fighting off the ropes. And whenever you do that, it never looks as successful or aggressive as the person who's taking centre ring and pushing back somebody. You know, it's not as if he was being pushed back because he was getting hit with hard shots from Dillian Whyte. He just wasn't really pushing forward. He was kind of a little bit content to kind of wait. And I think that went against him because ring generalship also includes taking centre ring and pushing your opponent back, things like that. So I think that may have been the reason why he didn't get the nod. And I think the reason why he was on the ropes is not, like I said before, it's not because he was being pushed back by Dillian Whyte. I think he has a kind of, I think what he was trying to do was he was trying to draw Dillian Whyte to make a mistake and so he could counter. I mean, to me, Franklin looked like a man who knows that he has power and was waiting for Dillian Whyte to make a mistake so that he could, you know, get him with a clean shot and then all hell would have broke loose. I think he would have, if he would have caught Dillian Whyte with a shot that staggered him, I think Franklin would have gone full force ahead and thrown a whole barrage of shots. And I think he was waiting for that. Although he was busy, he was kind of waiting to counter. And I think that's why he was leaning on the ropes. He was playing a bit of possum as well, you know, leaning on the ropes, waiting for Dillian Whyte to come in and then catch him with something. I think that's what he was trying to do. And in the end, I think that tactic kind of went against him because it looked as if he wasn't being as aggressive as Dillian Whyte, when in actual fact, I think he was more aggressive than Dillian Whyte. So I think that was his downfall, basically. But I'm a fan of Franklin now, Jermaine Franklin. I think he's got potential. I think he should take this loss as something to give him motivation, because I think he showed that he can hang with the best of them in there. You know, his hand speed was good. Probably needs to get in better shape, maybe, but he probably knows that already. I think he's got potential. I think a good fight would be against him, maybe the Chinese guy Zhang, or maybe Herbovich would be a good fight. Hellenius would be a good fight. He's definitely come to the big time now, you know, and I think he can go from strength to strength with this. I liked his performance. I liked his behaviour. I thought he was a gentleman. I also like the fact that he said he thinks he got robbed in the fight, because a lot of fighters kind of get ridiculed if they talk about being robbed, and so often they don't say it. They just say, oh, it's a good fight, even though really they think they got robbed. But I like the fact that he just said what he thought, because I thought that he won, and I think he's got every right to say what he thinks. It's not like a fighter who put up a rubbish performance and then says he's got robbed. He put up a great performance and arguably won the fight by 1 point, like I said. And so he's got the right to say he got robbed, and and it shows how brave he is to say, I want the rematch. I think I can beat him. And actually, in actual facts, it was actually Dillian Whyte who said in a post-fight, I'm not going to fight him again. So that fight is not happening. It's actually Dillian Whyte who said he's not going to fight him. It's not because he's scared. Dillian Whyte just wants to move on to bigger things. He's just still upset about the fact that he lost that fight and he lost his position and he has to regain that position and regain his fitness and all sorts. I think that had a lot to do with it, just not being motivated. He wasn't motivated for this fight, definitely. And I think that was the main thing. And look, I'm a Dillian Whyte fan. I'm actually a fan. I like the guy. I'm actually a fan of him. I think he needs to decide if he wants to carry on boxing or not, because I think a lot of things have gone wrong for him and I just don't see that he's motivated. I think if he gets that motivation back to start training hard, to get him back in shape, get him in better shape, putting the Fury loss behind him for his next fight, I think he can do way better than this. So I haven't lost faith in Dillian Whyte at all. It just depends on how he feels about the game. If he's getting disillusioned with the game, his performance is only going to get worse. But if this has lit a new fire, then I think he can get better. We'll have to see. But that's all I got for now. Franklin, a new rising star maybe. I like the guy, to be honest. And Whyte definitely has got to find that motivation from somewhere. He's won this fight, so maybe the motivation will be a big fight with what's his name? Big fight with Joe Joyce or something. I think that a fight like Joe Joyce, or if he gets a fight with Wilder, I know Wilder's tied up with Andy Louise, but if he could get the winner of that or any kind of big fight in the top 5, I think Whyte will be more motivated by that because he will feel like he's got back to the position where he should be. That's what I think is the main issue going on with Dillian Whyte. Let me know what you think. You may completely disagree and say, no, Dillian Whyte's completely shot. He should retire. And I wouldn't completely disagree. Let me know your views. I'm out. Once again, guys, I really appreciate everyone who clicked on my video today. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.